Hello everybody, welcome to Northern Forge and Timber. Today we are going to be making some quarter sawn birch lumber. And I have the first tree that I'm going to cut down today right here. It's a fairly good size and it's relatively straight. So I've got the truck parked a good ways back so we don't have to worry about that. We're going to fall it and then I'll drag it out of here with a tractor. Yeah, hope you guys enjoy. So I brought the skid steer out and some chain. So I'm going to chain onto this tree and we'll get it drug out. I have a spot that I parked the trailer and I'm going to saw off all the limbs, throw them in a brush pile, and then I'm going to cut the top up into just firewood, just so that we're not wasting anything, because I can only really use up to here is like, you know, the base of the tree, nice and straight and big. Yeah, so on our chains we have a normal hook and that just fits onto the chain and it won't move, and then we have what's called a slip hook. So what I'm going to do is wrap the butt of the tree with a slip hook, and then I'm going to hook this end up to the forks of the skid steer. So the slip hook basically just allows the chain to get tighter as you pull on it. So there's nothing really at the end of this tree to keep the chain from coming off. So as you're pulling on it, it gets tighter and then it doesn't slide off. And then you always want to pull the trees from the butt end, because all the branches go up, like they grow up away from the tree and reach towards the sky. So as you're dragging it, none of the branches dig into the ground. If you were to tie onto the end, like the top end of it, as you're pulling that tree along, all those branches are going to be digging into the road, making big ruts. So yeah, we'll get this pulled out of here. I got all the logs hauled out to the sawmill. I've got most of them thrown on the crib here, and I have one on the saw, and I'll just show you guys what exactly I'm doing and what I mean by quarter sawing. And there's lots of videos out there on how to do it, and I haven't seen anybody do it quite the way I figure I'm going to do it, so we'll see how it goes. So basically, quarter sawing, if you look at a tree, I'm going to do my first cut right across the center, and then my second cut is going to go 90 degrees off of that, which is going to leave me these quarters. So plain sawn, which is what everybody normally does, you just make it square and then you're taking your boards off that way. But quarter sawn, you cut it into quarters, or that's how I'm going to do it, and then you cut your boards. Like I'm going to have just this quarter on. I want to take one board off the bottom, and then I want to turn it 90 degrees and take a board off this side. Then I want to flip it back 90 degrees, take a board off this side, flip it back, and take a board off that side. So basically what you're trying to do is, if you see the grain, or not the grain, the growth rings of the tree, the closer to 90 degrees those growth rings are to the long face of your board, the more stable it is, because these growth rings shrink and expand mostly this way and don't hardly shrink and expand at all this way. So that's why you can see all these cracks that are here, is because as it's drying out, those rings are wanting to get shorter this way, and then that tension is causing all these cracks in there. So a true quarter sawn board is anywhere from 90 degrees to 60 degrees. So right here where it's like a 45, that's not technically quarter sawn, but when it opens up, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly 60 degrees, but this would be quarter sawn. And then once we get up into this corner, you know, once I keep cutting these boards, when it changes from 60 degrees to, I believe, 45 degrees, it's considered rift sawn, which is a higher quality than just plain sawn. Because the other problem with plain sawn is, if I were to cut this here, if I were to cut a board out of the tree, I have some grain going this way, or not grain, growth rings, but then these rings here are running that way. So when that shrinks and expands, that's going to cause cupping and twisting, which we don't want. And so I'm going to get a couple of quarter sawn boards out, and then a couple of rift sawn boards, and I'm just going to leave a live edge, and then I'll cut that off with a table saw when I'm working on a project. And then my waste is just going to be up in this corner. So I'm going to have like a corner piece, and that'll be waste, and I'm hoping I can use that for handles, and if not, it'll be firewood. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. That is the result of one 8-foot log, and I think it was approximately 12 inches in diameter on the butt end. So I've got probably 4 1x5s and then some 1x3s, some 1x4s. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just keep a lookout for some bigger logs. I think I might quarter saw this one here. I think it's still pretty big, but I think I'm just gonna plane saw the other ones, and then I'll just use them accordingly. Like when you plane saw, you're gonna get a couple quarter sawn boards out of the middle. So I could probably still get like 4 or 5 quarter sawn boards if I plane sawed this. So I'll just use those for the projects that it kind of matters a little bit more, and I'll use the plane saw boards for the ones that it doesn't matter quite so much. But yeah, I'll try and get one more tree sawn up tonight, and that'll be that for the day.